When Mark Wahlberg stepped onto the stage at Jimmy Kimmel Live that night, he wasn't looking for trouble. He came dressed sharp in a gray suit and crisp white shirt, prepared to promote his new film, shake hands, and maybe tell a few lighthearted stories. But live television has its own rhythm, and sometimes an offhand joke can turn into something heavier. Under the glare of those hot studio lights, one seemingly playful remark would soon shift the tone of the evening and create a moment no one in the audience would ever forget. Outside in Los Angeles, the city was alive with its usual nighttime hum. Inside the studio, laughter rippled as fans took their seats, clutching their applause cards. Jimmy Kimmel was in fine form, loosening up the crowd with a string of improvised one-liners, flashing the smirk that had become his trademark. Backstage, Wahlberg glanced in the mirror, adjusted his jacket, and rolled his shoulders. He'd done plenty of interviews, but Kimmel had a reputation, clever, quick, and not afraid to poke until he got a reaction. A stagehand called out, 2 minutes. Mark, his publicist, leaned in with a reminder, keep it light, family, the movie. That's what wins the crowd. Wahlberg gave a knowing nod. He understood the drill, but what neither he nor his team could anticipate was that Jimmy planned to take the conversation in a direction that touched on nerves Wahlberg rarely exposed. The red light blinked. The applause sign lit. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jimmy announced with his usual sparkle, "please welcome Mark Wahlberg." Cheers erupted as Wahlberg strode out, waved to the crowd, and shook Jimmy's hand before sliding into the guest chair. At first, the conversation seemed harmless enough. Jimmy opened with a tease. "Mark, you're looking good. Is this movie star good, or I can still beat up everyone in this room good?" Wahlberg chuckled. "Bit of both." Got to keep people guessing. The audience laughed, relaxed, and ready for more. Then Jimmy leaned in with a grin. "Before we get into the new movie, what's tougher, filming those big action scenes or explaining that Boston accent to people who swear you're just doing a bad British impression?" The crowd roared. Wahlberg smiled, but his eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "Well, Jimmy," he said evenly, "explaining it to you might be the hardest job I've had yet." Laughter followed, but the edge in his tone wasn't lost. Jimmy pressed on. "Speaking of tough jobs, I read somewhere you almost became a priest. That's one wild detour, holy water to Hollywood." Wahlberg gave a small, controlled laugh. "Let's just say this industry could use some divine intervention now and then." The audience chuckled. But already the balance in the room had shifted. When they returned from the first commercial break, the mood was different. Jimmy shuffled his cards with deliberate casualness. "So this new film, Steel Horizon, explosions, car chases, the whole Wahlberg package. But tell me, don't you ever look at a script and think, wow, I've basically been playing the same guy for 20 years? The audience tittered nervously. Wahlberg's jaw tightened. "I like to think I bring something new to every role. Different layers, different energy. But hey, Jimmy, you've been telling the same desk jokes for 20 years, too." The crowd gasped, then burst into laughter. Jimmy smirked, undeterred. "Touché, but at least my jokes don't blow up half a city block." "Not yet," Wahlberg shot back. Deadpan. The audience erupted again. Still, Jimmy wasn't finished. "You've had quite a career arc, rapper, underwear model, action star, almost priest, and of course that colorful past. You ever think about how crazy it is that Hollywood welcomed you in?" The air went still. Wahlberg's smile tightened. "You mean, do I think about how much work I've put in to turn my life around?" "Every day. And maybe you think it's a punchline, but I don't." Jimmy backpedaled. "Hey, I just meant it's a redemption story." "People love that." "Yeah," Wahlberg replied, steady but sharp. "But usually they tell it without trying to make you the joke." The audience murmured. The banter had taken a serious turn. Trying to ease the tension, Jimmy pivoted. "So you've got 4 kids. How do they feel about Dad blowing things up on screen?" Wahlberg softened. They roll their eyes. "To them, I'm just Dad. My daughter still beats me at mini-golf, and she never lets me forget it." The audience laughed warmly, but Jimmy circled back. "I mean, you could give the Gettysburg Address, and half the country would still think you're ordering a meatball sub with that accent." The crowd roared again. Wahlberg leaned forward slightly. "You know, Jimmy, I've worked with a lot of comedians. The good ones know when to stop." Gasps. Nervous laughter. Jimmy forced a grin. "Hey, I'm just doing my job." "And I'm doing mine," Wahlberg shot back. "Which isn't sitting here to be the punchline of your stand-up routine." By the next break, the tension was undeniable. When the cameras rolled again, Jimmy tried another angle. "So, you've been back in Boston lately? Family, old friends? Or just hiding from your last box office flop?" The audience gasped aloud. Wahlberg gave a low, deliberate chuckle. "The thing about Boston is, people there tell you to your face if they don't like you. Not with a smile in front of a live audience." The laughter was uneasy now. Jimmy shrugged theatrically. "Hey, I'm just asking what people want to know." "No," Wahlberg countered. "You're asking what you think will get you a trending clip." The crowd let out a collective ooh. Jimmy faltered, then forced another grin. "Well, you're welcome for the free publicity." "Publicity's only good," Wahlberg replied coolly, "if you're not making yourself look like a clown in the process." From there, the clash only escalated. When Jimmy mocked Wahlberg's early morning workouts, asking if it was discipline or desperation, Wahlberg leaned in. "Jimmy, I've been getting up early and putting in the work since before you had this desk. And I'll still be doing it when someone else is sitting here." The gasps were louder this time. Jimmy stiffened. "So, why do people say you just play the same guy in every movie?" Wahlberg's faint smile was sharp. "People say a lot of things. Some say late-night hosts have been doing the same monologue for 15 years. Doesn't make it true." The audience exploded. Cheers, gasps, clapping all at once. Jimmy tried to mask his irritation, but the balance had shifted. By the final segment, the tension hung thick. Jimmy forced a smile. "Well, let's talk about your movie. It's not like you came here just to insult your host." Wahlberg's voice was calm, but cold. "I came here to talk about the work." "Hard to do that when you keep turning it into a roast." Jimmy pushed again. "Oh, come on. You're a tough guy. You can take a few shots." Wahlberg leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I can take plenty. But I don't confuse taking shots with letting someone waste my time." The audience gasped again. Jimmy snapped. "Maybe you should stick to punching people in movies. You're better at that." "Maybe you should stick to interviewing people you can talk over," Wahlberg replied. That line landed like a knockout blow. The studio erupted, half the crowd cheering, half stunned into silence. Wahlberg stood, smoothed his jacket, and turned to the audience. "Thanks for coming out tonight, folks. Sorry you didn't get the show you expected." The crowd went wild, applause, whistles, even a few boos. Jimmy sat frozen, jaw tight, as Wahlberg walked off stage, high-fiving a few fans on his way out. "Mark Wahlberg, everybody," Jimmy muttered, forcing a smirk. The applause was thin, uneasy. The band stumbled through the exit riff. By the next morning, the clip had gone viral. Mark Wahlberg walks out on Jimmy Kimmel, dominated headlines, talk radio, and social media feeds. Debate raged. Was Wahlberg justified, or should he have stayed and finished the segment? But for those in the studio that night, one truth was clear. The laughter had stopped being fun long before Wahlberg rose from his chair. This wasn't just an awkward interview. It was a collision of egos, played out live before millions, leaving behind a late-night moment no one will soon forget.